Hopefully everybody can see my screen and hear me. And just so everybody knows, I'll be recording this webinar, so those of you who missed this session can watch it later, and I'll send it out for reference as well. But I want to start off by saying thanks for joining today. I hope the information shared will help you learn more about the management features available to you as a Quartzy Lab admin. I should also be introducing myself. My name is Monica. I'm the head of support here at Courtsey, and I'm really excited to be able to interact with all of you on this webinar, get questions, and just show you more about Courtsey. So it would be great to, I want to make sure to point out to you guys that there is a chat option that should be on the side of your screen in the Zoom meeting. I sent a quick message in there earlier. So that is a great place to ask questions throughout the webinar. I'll make sure I'm kind of referring back to it. Any questions that I'm not able to answer out loud, I will try to make sure to answer either in the chat, or I can get back to you later with answers to those questions. I'll give you all the information for how to contact us. But quick outline for what you can expect from this session. The webinar should last about 30 minutes, and we'll have plenty of time for questions, like I said. And I'll pause at certain times so I can kind of review those and see which ones I can get back to. Agenda, we'll go over navigating your account and some lab customization options, updating and processing order requests, buying from Courtsey, and that also includes understanding your payment options and using the Courtsey shop. And then we'll talk about learning how to use the Help Center and how you can continue to get assistance from the support team when you do have questions. I will make sure to post this again later as well, but as a reminder, you can always email us. We have a fantastic support team who is very knowledgeable, can answer all of the questions you have about anything related to Courtsey or orders that you've placed with us. So you can always reach us at support@courtsey.com. All right, so we are just gonna jump right into the live demo. So I'm going to head over to Courtsey. All right, so I want to get started by orienting you to your account and what you're seeing on the main page when you log in. So notice your profile icon up here in the top right. That's where your personal account settings are located. You'll also see a link to the Help Center, that's that question mark icon, as well as your cart. On the top left side of the toolbar is where your lab location and module settings appear. There's requests, your digital shopping list, where all items that need to be ordered can be kept track. The inventory, your lab's list of what is currently in stock, plus where everything is located and any important item data. And then we have the shop, the easiest way to find and request items you want to order directly from Courtsey. Over here on the left is the lab selection. Most users are only in one lab, so that's the name that will show up here. Others are going to be in multiple labs, and you can easily click on the lab name and select another lab. That's the lab that will stay selected when you move between these different modules. So I'm going to start by clicking on Manage here, and we're going to go through some lab settings. So this is the Manage Labs page. You'll start by selecting your lab name on the left, and then Members tab, where you can invite and promote members to admins. We strongly recommend that in your lab there are always at least 2 admins, so that if one is temporarily out or leaves the lab, there is a backup admin ready, already selected, who can take over management responsibilities. Moving over to the Lab Settings tab, this is for general general settings like spend tracking code management, inventory editing rights, and selecting your request workflow. An important setting that I wanted to highlight here is the preferred payment method options. Those options include credit card checkout. This is when you use a card at checkout and it will automatically be charged when your order ships. Purchase order or PO checkout method. With this option, you create the PO number and entering the billing and shipping in the cart during the checkout process, and an invoice will be sent to you when the order ships. And then the last option we have here is what we call the other checkout method. This is the best option for labs where a centralized purchasing department or a purchasing person is responsible for sending POs to suppliers. You submit a requisition to them, and then they're the ones who would be emailing in the PO to Courtsey at orders@courtsey.com. Invoices are sent once the order ships, and we'll talk a little bit more about the specifics of that buying process later, but I wanted to make sure to highlight this is where you select those payment options. Going back to the top here, we've got your location settings where you can set up where items are located. You can see we've got the -20-degree freezer with some freezer boxes as sublocations. You can click the grid to further view the details of that box, or that pencil icon is going to allow you to edit it. Next, we've got types. The standard fields for all of your types are going to be listed under this first tab here. These are the fields that cross all types. If I click on the Antibody tab, you can see the custom fields, which can also be edited, where you see this same pencil icon. Add additional custom fields by scrolling down to the bottom and clicking this plus custom field option. Next, we've got your vendors. You can see the list of all vendor names used in either requests or inventory for your lab. Add their URL and contact info. While this is a good reference tool, it is not a section where you can select which vendors members of a lab can or cannot request from. Members can enter requests for any suppliers, no matter if they appear on this list or if they don't appear on this list. This is purely for kind of reference purposes to hold some contact info for your suppliers. Next, we have backups. We strongly recommend receiving monthly spend reports, where an email will be sent to you with an Excel file containing the details of all of the requests submitted within that past month, and either weekly or monthly inventory backups, which will also have an Excel file with all of the inventory item details at that point in time. In case of any accidental deletions or changes and you want to restore to an early version of your inventory, you will have access to that in your email, and we will also save your 15 most recent backups here for you to download. The last tab here is your addresses, which is where you can manage your billing and shipping addresses that relate to the purchasing and payment process. So those are the basics of all of the lab management features. I'm going to pause just for a moment and quickly check the chat box just to see if anything came through that I can try to adjust now. But like I said, at the very end of the meeting is where I'll try to get to most of the questions.
Monica, Rebecca, we have a question from Jessica. I have never seen the grid that appears next to the sublocation. What are the details you can see there?
Oh, perfect. So the grid next to the sublocations, this is for your freezer box management. So when you create a sublocation, you have two options, either a shelf or rack, just kind of a regular location, or a freezer box. This allows you to set that 9x9 most common freezer box size, and then further place items directly into each of those positions within that box. So that management can be done here and is related to all of the items that you have specifically in your inventory. So I can just add items here. I can move these around as well. This can also be printed for reference.
Great, and she's also asking if there's a way to run backups without having to get an emailed report.
That is a good question. The backups, I think in order to turn them on, you need to receive that email. So it will be the option. You will get that email either every week or every month, and they'll be available here. So it's kind of an either or. It's either you don't want them at all or you're available here. This can also be set per member in the lab. So you may have one admin who has inventory backups set to either weekly or monthly. And then in that case, that person would have those backups available to them, and you could share that resource. All right, thank you, Derek, for sharing those questions. I could not find the chat box, so.
No problem. There's one more about the grid from Zach asking if the frozen bacterial stock grid is searchable.
So since the items that you put into your freezer boxes are all items in your inventory, they will be searchable there. So I'll talk about inventory searching when we get that point. So you can access the grid in this view when you're managing locations. You can also access it in the inventory. So I'll show you kind of both of those views. They look very similar. Lots of location questions. I love it. All right. Awesome.
Okay, and we've got one more as Courtsey as a vendor. So my biggest problem with ordering from Courtsey is my ability to apply our discounts through contracts with our reps. Is there a way that we can do that?
So the way that it works right now is that Courtsey has our own prices for the items that we sell in our shop, which is another section I will get to soon. Anytime you have direct deals with suppliers that you purchase from, those deals will not apply to your orders through Courtsey. So in order to get those, you would want to continue to order directly through those suppliers. But those items may also be available in Courtsey, so you can check and compare those prices, or we can just send you those quotes directly through the items that you request. Hopefully that helps. All right.
All right.
I will continue on. Great questions. Thanks everybody so far. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go and click on this orange Q logo. That will always take me back to my request page. So wherever you are, click that Q and you'll get back. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna dive deeper into this request module. As I mentioned before, this is your lab's digital shopping list. Requests for any and all items that need to be purchased can be tracked here, whether or not the purchases for those items will go through Courtsey. So like I said, even if you're not gonna buy this item through Courtsey, members of your lab can add the request in here, keep track of when they were ordered, important order information, confirmation numbers, tracking, all of that can go in here, even if you're not going to be buying those items from Courtsey. You'll find the Add Request button over here on the left sidebar. This is going to be the best place to start when something needs to be ordered. Just have the vendor and catalog number ready when you get to that form. In the middle top area here, we have the navigation bar. The idea being that you select a status and only see the requests that you are interested in or need to take action on. So let's take a look at the requests here that are in the new status. You can view the list of all newly submitted requests here. Click on the item name, and the item details will slide in on the right side where you can view and edit details. I could edit the price, and then clicking out automatically saves that information for you. Edit all other fields here as well. I can simply scroll down, or I can use this bar over here to quickly jump to the section I'm interested in. Close the details panel by either clicking this arrow in the top left corner or just clicking outside the panel. You'll notice the numbers here in the status bar. We have 4 that are in new, and currently we have 0 that are in the ordered status. So let's say I've gone ahead and purchased an item directly from the supplier, and now I need to let my lab know. I'll mark this request as ordered. And then you'll see those numbers change. That item moves over to the ordered status. I can continue to edit any of those additional item details here as well. Again, just by clicking that item name and then entering any important data here. Maybe which grant this was associated with. I may have gotten a confirmation number from Sigma when this order was placed. All of that can be saved in here for reference. So now let's say some time has passed and this item has been delivered to your lab. I'll go ahead and mark this item as received. And I can also choose to add this item to my inventory and select the location where this item will be stored. That item is now added into the inventory where the stock levels can continue to be tracked, and we'll get to that inventory module in just a minute. But lastly, I will move to the receive status where I can view my entire lab's ordering history here. You can click request again to easily select when items need to be reordered, and that item gets added back into the new section, and it starts that whole process over again. The last option you have here is the all request status, is basically everything, no matter what status that current request is in. And I can click this down arrow right next to that button and filter for the other statuses we have. So canceled items, back ordered items can also be found by just clicking that button there. I can also click this checkbox right next to that item, and you can see this options toolbar drop down from the top for some of my bulk options. So updating the status of multiple items. I can group items under a PO number, create a requisition form, export to a CSV file, or I can permanently delete these requests from my lab. Over on the left sidebar here, you have all of your search and filter options. This will really help you narrow down the results so you only see what you care about. So we've got your filters for only Courtsey items, vendor, the requested by, who requested those items, your grant ID or spend tracking codes, as well as type. And then lastly, you have your general text search. I'm gonna do another quick pause here as well, because that's kind of most of just the general request module features. Derek, are there any questions that have come in so far about the request module?
Yes, so from Sally, after you, excuse me, after you select add request, can you tell the system to skip to the next page, or do you have to select skip lookup every time?
Yes, so that is when you're using the add request button, it's going to take you into this lookup form. This is the system we have in place that allows you to, just like I said, you get that vendor and get that catalog number, and then we're gonna try to find the item either in your order history, in the Courtsey shop, in just the regular vendor catalog. So this lookup step tries to get you to just what you need. If you wanna skip this, the option you have right now is just that skip lookup, and it takes you right to this form where you can enter everything in manually if you prefer.
Okay, and from Megan, I know admins are the only ones who can approve requests, but can members also order supplies once approved by an admin?
They cannot. So at this time, in order to be able to mark something as approved, that step's missing here. That's another one you can add in for anybody who wants it. Only an admin can mark something as approved or as ordered, either marking it as ordered or actually placing the order through the cart. You must have admin rights in order to do that. What members can do is they can only mark requests as received. So that is something that a member can do, is both adding a brand new request as well as marking something as received and adding to the inventory.
All right, and Renee is asking about a tab in the order request flow for and marking an item as being paid for.
Yeah, so having a more customized kind of workflow, yeah, something like paid, maybe one level of approval or a second level of approval. I know sometimes those are steps that labs have. We don't have those additional customization options, but I believe that feature request is on the request list for our product team. So I can make another note of that. I think towards the end of this webinar, I might have somebody from our product team join us, and we can see kind of what the status is of potential improvements in that area. But right now, the only other step you can add in is an approval step to this process.
All right. And Brendan is asking about requesting antibodies from a vendor that does not exist in Courtsey.
Okay, so that would be, just like I talked about skipping the lookup, essentially that may be what you do here. If you don't find the specific item you're looking for when you enter that vendor's name and the matching catalog number, then you're gonna have to skip that lookup and enter that information in manually. So this is just kind of that catch-all for anything that we won't auto-populate for you. There's a lot of vendors out there, a lot of different suppliers that people are buying from, and we don't always have every single one of them. So this will catch those. But then the next time you go back to request that item, if you've requested it in the past, it will show up in this lookup. Enter that vendor and catalog number, and it'll show as being in your order history. Or if you just want to try searching for that item, then it would show up here, and you could click this request again. So you have kind of multiple options for just finding what that is that you need to add in that new request.
Okay. We have some other questions about inventory, but I think we can hold those until you get through the inventory area.
Perfect.
Or would you like to take those now?
I will go through the inventory and we can take those after. Yep, that is exactly the next section I'm going to get to. All right, so thanks everybody for the questions so far. And we are going to head right on over to the inventory. So you can see all I need to do is just click that tab at the top, and I'm taken right over to the inventory module. And you'll notice that this page looks quite similar to the request module, with rows going all the way across the page, so you can view the information you want about your items. You can customize the columns that show up here in the inventory by clicking this gear icon. I can simply add in information like price or owner, and those columns show up for me to view here, which I can then move around the screen to get this view exactly how I'd like it to be. Each different member can customize their own view using those options as well. You'll see the filtering and search options over here on the left sidebar, just like you saw in the request module. The filters are a bit different over here since we're tracking different information. We have location, type, vendor, and owner. You'll see if I filter by a type here, let's say chemical, the columns change. So depending on what I'm looking at, I may want to see different information here. So bottle reference, for example, or physical state are some custom fields that are found only under the chemical type. So I can really drill down and say, if I don't need to know when chemicals were added, but I do want to see their alternate names, I can really customize those columns. All you have to do first is just filter by that type. And then I can click clear and it'll go back to my regular view. I want to highlight the locations again, since we did get some questions earlier about the freezer boxes. So location filtering is going to help you get down to those items that are in those specific freezer box sublocations. So the locations I can filter for here. I can check the checkbox for the entire location, or this little plus icon will give me each sublocation within that main location. So if I just want to see Andy's gene box, which is kind of what we were looking at before, this had one of the DNA samples in it, that's the only item I will see show up. Clicking that item will take me to all of the item editing options. So this makes it really easy for all lab members when they notice, for example, maybe the amount in stock is getting low. They can go to this section and request items again. Maybe you're not requesting a DNA sample again, but this is where that would all happen. And this is what I really wanted to highlight for this particular item. This is your freezer box view. So you can see it in the managed locations area, and you can also see it here in the item details. I can enlarge this and again, have more of those options to move things around, add items into this box. That all happens here, or print. The add item form here is also similar to the add request form, where you can add anything that needs to be added outside of the process of marking something as received. So I mentioned earlier, when we marked that request as received, which is actually this item right over here at the top, that item was automatically moved from the request into the inventory. But anything that I want to add directly to the inventory that is not going through that requesting process, you can just click add item. And same thing with the request form. If the item information does not autofill for you, you can just add that information in manually. So this is what that form looks like. For anyone that is in multiple labs, I also want to point out over here, if I click on this down arrow next to the lab name, I have the all labs option. This is a great resource when you are searching for something, but you're not exactly sure which lab that belongs to. You can simply look at all of your lab's inventory and then find the items that you're looking for this way. All right, that was a little bit quicker than the other sections, but that's the inventory. Now would be a great time. Derek, what were those inventory questions that came up from earlier?
Yeah, I think some of these are inventory, some of these are locations. So Sarah's asking, is there an easy way to this is Beth. Is there an easy way to merge inventories for two locations into one?
You can edit the locations for each of your individual items. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for, but if something moves, I can simply change the location here for that item. And I can simply repeat that for each item going down the list.
Yeah, I think Mary Bowman has a related question about managing inventory that's going to be moved. Basically, are there ways to select and mass move items from one location to another? All items in a location, i.e. stockroom 1, and change the location to stockroom 2 without clicking on each item and changing its location.
Yeah. That would be a great time when you can use these features down here. So we've got an export button and we've got an import button. there is a process, and I can send you the Help Center documentation for this, which walks you through it pretty easily. I can export a set of inventory to an Excel file, make changes directly on that Excel file, save them, and then import those items back. So you do want to be very careful with that process, that you're not making, any large formatting changes to that file, because that could potentially lead to errors. So once you do that export, it could be as simple as, just updating that location for that set of items to make sure it matches the location you want to move those items into, and import it back. Using that Excel process is probably going to be your best bet.
Okay, and is there an easy way to add a map of our lab so that members know the location that we are referring to? We have a big lab. In fact, she's also asking is there a way to add photos of the locations of items in Courtsey?
Oh, I love that idea. I think we do have another idea on the feature request list regarding a map. Yeah, I think that is something that we've heard before, so I can check on that idea. I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for in terms of a photo of where the item is, but you do have the option in each item to upload a file. This could be an image, this could be a picture that you're taking of where that particular item is located. So that might help in some instances for helping people understand where things are. You can just upload, attach a picture here, somebody can download that and see where that item's located. But in terms of a larger map or more of a kind of depository that shows people how to get oriented in the lab, that's not exactly something we have yet. So I will put that on the feature request list as well.
And Lily's asking if we have multiple lab groups, can inventory be shared between them, or does it need to be replicated?
If you want to have the same set of items in multiple labs, you would need to replicate those labs. So that is sometimes a reason that you have one person who is in multiple labs. But the way that you could split up your labs is really kind of customized to whatever works for you. You may just want to create one lab and put everybody as members of that lab. If that's the place where they should be viewing their inventory, you may have a different lab that's for when you want to make requests for items. You kind of can customize that to fit the particular workflow of your lab. That could be something we dive into a little bit more one-on-one. If you want to email support after this, I can kind of walk through some ideas. But in terms of who can see the inventory of a lab, you must be a member of that lab in order to see the inventory. So however that kind of works out, you would just want to be in that lab that has those items.
Okay, and then T. Archer is asking, is there a way to make an item, a chemical for example, as depleted or discarded, but have it remain in the inventory for historical reference?
Mm-hmm. So that's when you would see something like this, you might see that there is a 0 units. There is no more inventory left of that item. That's one option, is just deplete that stock, show it as having 0, and then that lets people know that there's none left. But we have heard some really cool ideas actually from users who have items that are more like, they're archived, they're not using them anymore, they're not actively in the inventory. You may create a location that's called archived. I actually thought I had one in here. It doesn't look like I do. You can create a new location that's either depleted stock, archived items, and move those items into that location when they're used up. So that way, if somebody goes to it, they'll see that it's in that archived area, and they may know either not to request that or not to use that item any longer. And then when you're viewing the inventory, you can filter that location out. So if you don't want to see items that are in that archived location, you can select everything but that location to make sure you're viewing everything you currently have.
All right, we can move on and we'll circle back to some of these other questions in the next break.
All right, fantastic. I do want to be conscious of time a little bit. We're at 9:37 Pacific time, but we are headed into our last section, which is the shop. This is where I will be walking you through how to purchase lab supplies directly from Courtsey. So the shop is a great place to start when you want to browse through the millions of supplies that we have available through Courtsey. Courtsey works with top lab supply manufacturers and distributors to ship directly to your lab. We also currently have a warehouse in the San Francisco Bay Area with supplies that usually ship in 1 to 2 days. Searching the shop can be as specific as a catalog number or a CAS number, or as general as the type of item. For example, centrifuge tubes. Over on the left sidebar here, you can select from important attributes like sterility and volume, as well as all of the other options that show up here on the left: manufacturer, price, lots of ways to filter down. When your items come up, you can view delivery estimates here, and then choose to either request that item or add to cart. Both choices will result in a new request being added to the lab. Using the add to cart option simply results in fewer clicks, which I know everybody likes. So going back to the request table, I'm going to go to the new section, and we're going to look at some of the requests that we already have on the list. For this item at the bottom here, you'll notice the orange Courtsey logo under this request indicating it is a Courtsey item that's ready to go through the checkout process. These other requests do not have the Courtsey logo. However, there are available quotes. I can click See Quote to learn more about the Courtsey option. This checkmark icon indicates that this quote is for the exact same item that was requested. Click Accept Quote, and it turns this item into a Courtsey item, which can then go through the checkout process. Or let's say somebody accepted a quote, but you decide that you'd prefer to buy that item through the supplier directly. I'll click here, see original request, and then switch back. You can now update the status of that request to keep the lab updated and place the order however you normally would for this particular supplier. I'll go to the cart once I'm ready to complete the checkout process. I mentioned earlier the different payment options you have in your lab. You have credit card, PO method, or what I was calling the other method. For those of you that would have the other method I talked about earlier, I want to point out this print quote option. A PDF file will be generated with the exact pricing when buying through Courtsey, which you can submit along with your requisition in whatever system it is that you use. This orange button is going to change from checkout to mark ordered if you're on that other process, since you don't need to go through the checkout flow in this cart. Send us the PO, and then we'll update and process those items for you. But for those of you on either credit card or PO checkout method, you will go through the checkout flow just like you would for any other e-commerce site, enter billing and shipping, and we'll process this order for you. Your last stop before placing an order should always be this See Details button. And I recommend this for no matter what your ordering process is, PO, credit card, other. Click See Details, and you will see all the specifics regarding shipping and handling charges. This gives you all that information up front so you can decide which purchasing options are best for you. As a note, all orders over $99 will receive free standard shipping. There may still be other shipping and handling charges, so make sure to check that before submitting your requisition to purchasing or clicking the checkout button. Back on the request page, after all of your orders have been placed, you can view them in the purchase history. So this button right over here on the right side, that is also where invoices will be available for you to download. Invoices can also be emailed to you. That was one of the options in your lab settings where you could select if all of your invoices need to go to your AP department, you can enter in the email address for that department and they'll get them directly. But as a backup, everybody in your lab can access invoices through the purchase history as well. And a reminder as well, if Courtsey is a supplier for the items that you're ordering from us, you can reach out to us with any and all questions about those orders. If it's about the status or you have an issue with that particular item, we're the ones you want to reach out to. All right, that's buying from Courtsey using the shop. All I have to do now is go back to the last slide, but any other questions that I can get answers to while I still have Courtsey up here?
Yes, so we've got some questions about both requests and inventory and shop. So does Courtsey integrate with Xero? This is from Christina Martin.
I think, oh, Christina. I think Xero, I think that's Xero. I believe that is a system that we've heard of, yeah, either if it's accounting, a system like that, or for purchasing. Right now, the integrations we have to other systems is not something that we have available right now. Courtsey continues to be your best place to manage the order request process and for placing those orders directly. But if you have other systems that you're using either for accounting purposes or that are required by your organization or institution, you may use those to complement each other. Courtsey's the organizational communication tool, and that other system takes care of, yeah, the accounting and requisition process. So those may still be separated, but there may be some integrations coming down the line. So I'll make sure to bring that up with our product team, product development team as well.
All right, and when an item is added to inventory when received, will the price, if different, be automatically updated in the inventory tab?
Whichever price you had for the item when it was in request, that will be the same price put into the inventory. When it's in the inventory, you have more options to edit those things. But like requests, for example, for Courtsey items, this price can't be edited. Your non-Courtsey items, you can edit the price either in request or inventory. But yeah, you can set those.
All right, and Chris Tappy on our product team is on this webinar as well, and can answer the accounting system integration question probably with some of the things that we're working on coming soon.
Yeah.
Hi everybody, Chris here. So I just wanted to mention that specifically for the Xero integration, that is something that is actually something we're currently exploring. We're starting now. Actually the Quickbooks online integration. So that is something that is in progress. A Xero integration is something that we plan on following up as well later in this year. So I just wanted to mention that if anybody is interested in either Quickbooks Online or Xero or any other financial integrations, please shoot us an email. I believe our support email is on this call, if that's right, Monica. Otherwise, support@courtsey.com. And we will reach out to you with details if anybody's interested about that.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Any last questions while I still have Courtsey up?
Yeah, so if we, is it possible through Courtsey to print labels for cryo vials based on the nomenclature that we use in Courtsey through the grid view? This is a question from Martha.
The actual printing of labels is not something that we have available through Courtsey. That would still be something that you would have to access either through, yeah, other programs. But once you do have that information, if you're keeping track of either specific barcode data or like serial numbers, whatever numbers you're using to keep track of which items those are, that's information that you can keep track of in here. So the actual label generation would need to go through another system, but once you have that data, you can enter that in here. So then when you're looking for those labels or you're looking for those particular items, just search by that. And then you would be able, just using that search bar over on the side, to find that information here. But yeah, the labels would need to be done outside Courtsey.
Okay. And Zach is asking, at the end of the month when I pay invoices at one time, there's a PDF list generated of invoice numbers. Will the grant ID be generated in that list to help for client coding?
If you're referring to the order history backup, the one that's sent to you via email, grant ID should be one of the columns that shows up in that Excel file. So yeah, if you have that information in here, all of these columns, all of these data fields, they'll show up in that exported Excel file.
All right. And let's see here. So Kathy's asking, I discovered the subcategories under all requests today when a member notified me they canceled an item. Does only the requester receive an email notification on a canceled item?
Yes. When you update the status of a request, whoever is under the from area, this is the requester, they're the person who will be notified that that request has been updated. If that includes items being canceled, being back ordered, marked as received, that person marked as the requester is the only one who will receive those notifications.
All right. And how are we doing on time, Monica? Do we have time for a couple more?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think we had an hour set aside, so as long as that's okay, I will continue to answer questions.
All right. So can we bulk update inventory via the import tab? And does the inventory increment if we purchase an item that still has stock in the system? It's a question from Michael.
Yeah, so two separate questions in there. Yes, you can bulk update the inventory. That would again be using the Excel export and import process. Note of importance here is if you're going to do a bulk update, make sure you export the most current version of your inventory before making those changes and importing it back in. If you use an old file, you may be overwriting changes that have happened in that time since you did that export. So anytime you want to make a big change, update the stock for a bunch of different things, change locations, export a file to start making those changes and use that to import rather than using an old one. As that kind of relates to the other question you had, if I mark a request as received and that item is already in my inventory, I am going to get the option to update that particular item. So let me, I don't know if I have an example of an item in here. But if it is something that I have marked as received before, it's going to show up in the inventory. I'm going to see a box that says how many items are currently in the inventory and how many items I ordered. And you can use that to either add together, because maybe your current stock number might actually be incorrect. Let's say it said 5, but the reason you placed a new order is because you had 0. You might want to just manually check that for yourself. We don't want to be adding, false extra numbers in there for you. If you had 5 and you ordered 2, you have 7 all of a sudden when you really only have 2. So when you're marking something as received, look at that current amount in stock and you'll be able to update that quantity for your inventory. We also have a help center page for that, which I can send out.
All right. And if our organization is tax exempt, can we create a tax exempt business account?
Absolutely. You don't even need to set up a new account. We can make your current organization set as tax exempt. Send that tax exemption certificate to support at Courtsey, and we will set that up for you. And then no more taxes.
All right. And then I think I'll take one more. So is it possible for a member to edit, for example, the grant ID, a request after it has been approved by the admin? This is from Tammy.
Good question. No. members in the lab, the requester in particular, they can only edit their request while they're still in the new status. After those items are either approved or marked as ordered, then admins become the only ones who can edit that information. So yeah, for that exact reason, we don't want additional changes to be made after the fact. So we kind of lock up some of those fields from the requester.
All right, I know we didn't get to all of the questions, but we'll definitely follow up with each of you. Chris and I have been keeping track of the questions as they come through.
Awesome. All right, well, the last thing I just wanted to say is thank you all so much for joining the webinar today. I hope you learned something. I hope that was helpful. And as a thank you, everybody who registered will be receiving an email with a promo code, which you can use on your lab's next Courtsey order. So keep an eye out for that email. We might include some additional helpful information, reminders, how to get to the help center to find some of those instructional docs. But you can find all of the instructions you need in our help center. Feel free to email us. If you have general questions, support@Courtsey.com is the best place for you. If you have a specific order-related question, you can use our specific order-related email, but everything goes to the same place, and our support team is very responsive. For anything urgent, you can reach out to us via phone at 855-Courtsey. We have phone support from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time. And we will be expanding to earlier East Coast hours very, very soon. So I will stick around for a few more minutes. It's just before, we've got about like 5 minutes left till the hour. So if anybody has any other questions, I may see if Chris, our product manager, can join us again to maybe answer any of those specific product-y type questions. But I really hope you enjoyed the demo today, and thank you so much for coming, and I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their day. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So, Monica, let's see. We do have a couple more questions we could possibly get to here. So I believe Sarah's asking about a mobile app and when that would be available.
Yeah, a mobile app is definitely something that we hear a lot about from users. We understand the need for something that's a little bit more, takes you around the lab, can help you get stuff done rather than having to go back to the desktop. Currently, you can access Courtsey through your mobile web browser. It kind of resizes, shifts things around for you so that you can use it on mobile to still get a lot of stuff done. And a mobile app would really be the next step there. We've focused a lot on the web app. It's very robust. It has a lot of features in that, and it's a matter of just kind of adapting that to what's best on mobile. So we're still collecting feedback at this point. Right now, we do not have an ETA for when that would be released. But if you're using Courtsey through mobile, through your web browser, and you're like, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wish it was different here, that's feedback we would love to hear. So that support email address is a great place to send that, so we know we're on the right track and we're really getting you what you need.
All right. And so I have a question. Can we set a default expiration date notification?
Yes. Expiration dates are one of the standard fields that you'll find in the inventory. I think I know exactly what this person is asking for. You have to first select the expiration date, and then you'll have this option to choose when you want that reminder that that expiration date is coming up. So right now, the default is to none. But if you want to select 1 week, 2 weeks, or a month before, that is an option that you have to choose manually after selecting that date. But that's a good idea. I'm going to add that to the list as well.
All right. well, we can stop there. And once again, Monica, if you want to switch back over to your last slide, certainly there's multiple ways that you can reach us. And thank you for joining us today.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Bye.